everybody's in Dublin. They're not necessarily all over the world. Is there anybody anybody in from somewhere else outside of Ireland?
Hi everyone, yes.
Oh, plenty of responses. That's great. Okay, then we'll start. Like I said, my name is Andy McIntyre. It's not Confucius. I'm one of the lecturers in DCU. I've been lecturing in DCU since 2010. Prior to that, would you believe I was a professional pilot in the military? I joined DCU in 2010 and I've been involved in aviation management and the practicum ever since. So that's my background. I also have two colleagues of mine who are helping us with the presentation today. David Butt and also Neeraj. So maybe David, if you want to just say a quick word about who you are and your background.
Good afternoon, everybody. I work with DCU in the area of the practicum and I am the client coordinator. And my job is to make sure that the practicum runs smoothly and that the clients are happy and that the students are happy. So I'm the person that kind of makes sure everybody's happy. And hopefully all of you will be happy today after hearing what a practicum is all about.
Good, David, thank you. And Neeraj?
Yeah. Hi, everybody. My name is Neeraj, and I was a student in DCU. I did my master's in management, and I was working as a teaching assistant, management teaching assistant in DCU. It's a good place to work and study at the same time. So yeah, it's a good experience.
Very good, Neeraj. Thank you. And Neeraj also has experience of doing the practicum, and I'm going to bring Neeraj in later on just to give you a quick example of how he dealt with the practicum. So the first question that is on everybody's mind, it certainly was on my mind when I was tasked with doing the academic coordination of this particular module a couple of years ago. What is a practicum? So the first couple of slides are going to explain to you exactly what we mean by doing a practicum, and maybe us recommending as to why you should do a practicum rather than the normal dissertation that you will be doing as part of a master's program. So defining a practicum is a practical section of a course of study, a practical section of a course of study. So let's just expand upon that. It's an applied assignment with academic structure and research which exposes the student to a real-world scenario in order to allow the conceptual and theoretical learning covered in the earlier modules to be put into practice. Now, what does all that mean? Well, basically that means that in the other modules that you've been doing on your various masters in business courses that you have, or you're about to sign up to, I hope, you'll be doing the practicum module. Now, the practicum module goes across five different postgraduate courses in DCU. And what the practicum is, and you'll see now in a second, it's actually the dissertation, except for it's a dissertation with a real world issue, a real world business issue as the subject matter. So I'll just expand upon that as well. What is its structure and content? The practicums are both an academic and applied exercise to demonstrate an understanding and application of relevant theory and frameworks and to carry out research compliant with relevant legal, ethical, and academic standards. Every practicum has three elements to it: a literature review, primary research, and what makes the practicum different to a normal dissertation is the applied element. So what is the applied element? Well, David is going to explain to you a little bit in more detail at a later stage, but what the applied element is that we have in DCU many contacts with businesses around Europe and indeed around the world. And every year we ask the businesses, would they like to get involved with DCU as regards our DCU students doing some research for them on a particular issue that affects either their company or their business, or even the global business that they're involved in. We then get the students matched up with the clients, the business clients, and between the students and the business clients, they decide on what the issue is that they're going to write their academic paper on. That's the dissertation, but a dissertation with a real world practical element to it. Now, hopefully straight away you can see the advantage of doing that. If you're doing a business master's degree, you're going to get very familiar with lots of things that are going to be advantageous to you later on when it comes to your business and employment. So we have the introductions already. Myself, Andy McIntyre, I'm what's known as what's called the academic coordinator. So anything to do with the practicum that is related to DCU, in other words, the supervisors, the exams, the presentations you will be giving to the likes of me and the team. David is the client coordinator. He will have all the contacts with the businesses, and in fact it'll be up to David to engage with the businesses from the very start, and he will also have involvement with the students from time to time as well during the year. And then finally you will have what's called a practicum advisor, which will be an academic person from DCU, professor from DCU, who will be assigned to your group to guide you through the whole of the academic year. So you have that person who will guide you through your project, which will guide you through your practicum, and that person will also be responsible for giving you some of the marks towards your final practicum dissertation. And that obviously has to be decided at a later stage. But we have a team of very well experienced professors in DCU that have dealt with the practicums before. So I'm now going to hand you over to David, who will explain to you a little bit about the practicum selection process.
Thank you, Andy. So probably around September, October, one of my roles is to put out a call for projects. And that call goes internationally and into Ireland. And what we find is that the majority of our clients are Irish, though we have had people from Greece and we have had projects from Mexico. So we do stretch out further than Ireland. We have clients of various business sizes. And what we do is we look at we try and get a good mix. So because students want to work, some people want to work with multinationals, some people want to work with charity groups, and we do our best to pull that together. So to give you an indication, we would have large multinational clients in the past like Microsoft or Ryanair. We would have some medium Irish Indigenous businesses like insurance call centres. And we would have small Irish businesses who may be, you know, up to 10 employees, who may be in a retail environment or in an online environment. We also look at umbrella bodies, and for instance, we would have trade associations like the Irish Contract Cleaners Association, and trade organisations like the National Standards Authority of Ireland. And they all bring various different elements to the practicum and various different types of projects, which I'll go into later. We also look at community groups and charities. And DCU is very proud to be associated with Barrettstown, which is a children's charity here in Ireland. So we try and bring a range of projects that suit all students as to where you want to go in the future and the type of organizations you want to be in the future. We also have the opportunity that a student may submit a project, and they may know of a company or may have an associationship with a company who have a real world problem that they want to get some academic research done on. And we will put that through a process as we do with all clients. The Practicum board will identify the project, will look at the project if it's a student submitted project, and will ensure that it meets the criteria to be an academic project, because ultimately this is an academic project and this is your master's, and we want to make sure that you get something really good out of this. Andy.
Very much, David. So just to continue, and by the way, if anybody wants to ask any sort of a question at any stage during the presentation, feel free to do so. And also they can use the chat box. If you're familiar with how to use that, just ask the question. We'll keep that up to date. Preferably wait till the very end, because there will be a session afterwards, and it can take as long as you wish for questions to be asked. So maybe note your questions, but you feel free to ask them during the presentation if you wish as well. So the sponsored project typical steps. Agreement on the nature and scope of the deliverable. So basically, and you're going to see a timetable of the way we do things later on, you are going to meet with your clients. So you're going to be divided up into a team of 4 or 5 people. You will then have expressed an interest in the area that you're interested in doing. If there's an equivalent client, now that's an if, that's not a definite. If there's an equivalent client out there that wants something similar to be researched, like marketing, whatever, we'll try our best to match you up with them. David will do that. And at that stage, then you will meet your clients. So there's an agreement on the nature and scope of the deliverable with your client, with your business client. Then you will research it. Then you will have a development of a plan of action. Then you will obviously execute your plan of action. And then finally, recommendations for refining the plan of action will come into place. So this is we're getting into the area now of what, in our opinion, brings the practicum maybe above a normal dissertation. Because if you think about it, when you're working with a business client, you're reflecting the type of work that you're going to be doing when you go out into the big bad world of business after you get your master's. You're also dealing with a team of 3 or 4 people, and that can happen in business and does happen in business, as I'm well aware, project team. 3 or 4 people that could be multicultural, certainly people that you may not have met before. So you're gaining experience in all of these things in a real world scenario with a real world issue, but still completing an academic paper. So really, it's the best of both worlds. You're on a business master's degree, you're gaining experience of how things are done in project management teams in business, and you're also obviously getting the opportunity to write an academic paper with everything that comes with it, primary research, qualitative, quantitative, literature reviews, etc., etc., etc. So that's the advantage of doing a practicum. And if I was ever given the choice, I wasn't when I did my own master's many moons ago, it would be a practicum is what I would opt for rather than a dissertation. But that's up to yourselves to decide when you start whatever course you're going to start in DCU. So I'm going to let David take over here. I'm just going to put up the areas of interest that the clients will be asking us to perform, and David can take you through that.
Thanks, Andy. So I suppose it's important to note that this area of interest listing is not exhaustive, we look at various different types of projects, but this is a sample of the type of stuff we look at. So, for instance, under the marketing, we have in the past looked at a publishing company that needs to relaunch itself into market, and therefore that project would become a marketing project, and the research would all be done around that area. We've looked at feasibility. We've looked at, for instance, a new service, an Airbnb type service for surfboards, and the feasibility of that business, and is there a market out there for it? Can the business make money? Some of you may want to go into the consulting area, and therefore we generally have a good range of consulting assignments. And one of the most recent ones was the coming together of 2 state companies here in Ireland, and the intricacies and the issues around bringing those 2 companies together, particularly in the HR area. Business plan development, we've had a company who needed to get student recruitment for a new student services business, and how they needed to develop a business plan in order to do that. We've had projects as diverse as fashion. We've had a new fashion designer wanting to do a startup and bring their business into an online environment. We've had jewelry companies who have wanted to do that. And then in the business strategy area, one of the really interesting ones was taking a trade organization and making it more attractive to potential members. Trade organization was finding that what the original intention of the setting up of the organization was no longer attractive to the members, and it wanted to see what it could do and how it could change its strategy to keep its members engaged. We've had issues in problem analysis, issues with companies who have gender imbalance, and in an area where there may be traditionally male-led jobs or traditionally female-led jobs, and they want to correct the gender imbalance. We've had product launches, organic skincare ranges, and we've had in a business model exploration, we've looked at where a business, a traditional bricks and mortar business, wants to move its business into an online environment, and that's particularly relevant, obviously, in today's environment. But those type of projects have been going on for a number of years. So this just gives you a slight insight into the type of projects. As I said, that this list isn't exhaustive, and other things come up from time to time. But what we do is we try and ensure that you as a student, you have an idea of where you want your career to go. And for instance, it may be that you want to go into consulting, or you want to go into marketing, or you want to go into strategic stuff. And we try and match you with a project like that. Andy.
Very much, David. And then just maybe to give you some examples of some of the larger companies that we've involved in the last year or two. Obviously, myself coming from an aviation background, we've had Aer Lingus, Ryanair, the Irish Aviation Authority, and the Dublin Aviation Authority. So they're just the size and the prestige of the companies that can be involved. Now, there's some of the larger companies. We also have gotten involved, as David would be able to say, with very, very small companies that nobody will have ever heard of. And that's a good thing as well, because you can do a lot of very good research for the smaller companies as well. All right, David?
Yeah.
Okay, so let's move on. And I just want to put up a couple of bullet points here, and I'm going to let Neeraj take this particular slide, because Neeraj is a recent graduate of the actual course itself. He's back in DCU now, giving us a little bit of handout and teaching, assisting, etc. And Neeraj has a very recent experience of being on a practicum. And I'd like Neeraj now to just come in, Neeraj, and just tell your audience what was your experience of doing the practicum.
Thank you, Andy. Yes, guys, I've completed my master's in business management from DCU, and it was a completely different and a new experience, especially the practicum, wherein, as how Andy and David explained about, you have like more of corporate and a real world scenario. So wherein you meet the clients, you have a discussion with them, you understand what is their problem, and you try to find a solution. You work with your team and you do the market research, like primary, secondary, and it's all different tools you used for analyzing the data, visualizing. You go and meet different people. So basically the difference between a practicum and a dissertation is also that in dissertation, it's mostly like you are working on your own, but in practicum, you are with different people. You have a different culture you're working with, and it's a different experience wherein you don't know what you are thinking and what other person is thinking, wherein more points come in. You develop your ideas, you develop your competencies, your teamwork, your leadership roles. So all these things come into picture when you are doing a practicum. And as I said, like it's a group of like 4 or 5 people. When you meet the client, you understand the client, you have your own plan of action, and you can just like take the roles. As you can see in the slide, it's like one is project manager, then project secretary, research officer, then you have communication officer. So it all depends on you, how you want to take up the role. It's all based on the work or the research question, what you'll be framing, understanding the needs of the client. So practicum was one of the best things what I had done in DCU. It's because the academic research I had never done before. My projects were completely different, and this was where I learned a lot of things. It is like a strength point of me now, of doing an academic research. We as a team, we did a lot of like questioning, surveys, personal interviews. We did focus group. We went and talked to other people, professionals. Like mine was in digital marketing, so we went and spoke to some digital marketing industry specialists as well to get some real data and put it into our practicum. So definitely practicum will help you to gain a good understanding of what is actually happening in the market, in the industry, and you can implement that in your practicum, and like you're one step ahead of after you're finishing your master's. So I think that is what is master's level of education. You are one level in detail. I think that's the reason like practicum is very important. Yeah, thank you, Andy.
Okay, Neeraj, thank you very much for sharing your experience. And I presume, and you better be careful what you say here, I presume you really enjoyed the experience.
Yeah, it was very wonderful experience for me. And as I was also as a teaching assistant, so many students are like coming and like sharing their experiences and having questions, doubts. They're coming to me, and I'm just like helping them now as well with their analysis, visualization, like whatever you learn throughout the year in your masters, you can just implement completely in your practicum. Your different tools, softwares, everything. And definitely the professors, lecturers, your supervisors, they're always there to help you for in every step. Wherever you get stuck, if you're able to, like, you're finding it difficult to make a survey, yeah, you just go and talk to one of your professor who is like, who knows all these things. He will be able to help you. Nobody will ever say no. Just send them an email and they will revert you. It was like very flexible for me as well. And definitely you and David were there. David was there for every month, like behind us, like what is happening, where is the timeline, is everything on track? So that's like where DCU, all the lecturers, supervisors, you too, you give a push which helps us to go one step ahead, think one step ahead, and which makes us think like, yes, definitely we can do that thing. So thanks to everybody, like, to you both and all the professors in DCU.
Thank you very much, Neeraj. And it's when it comes to supervisors, men and women, and when it comes to students, men and women.
Yeah.
Thanks very much, Neeraj.
Thank you.
Okay, so just to give you a rough idea of the Practicum report, it's not to exceed 15,000 words, which is roughly the same size as a dissertation, and then obviously 20,000 words when you include the appendices and references. So it's of no bigger or smaller a scale than a normal dissertation. So just to give you an idea of the timeline, the good thing about the Practicum is while there is engagement in the first semester, there's not a lot. I will be giving you some lectures on the Practicum itself, the briefs, the dates, etc., etc. I'll also be doing 1 or 2 lectures with you in team building exercises, which are important for a multicultural class across various experience levels. So there's 2 or 3 lectures like that. And you will also be working with a teaching assistant who will be doing some preparatory work for you as well. But there's very little involvement with the Practicum in the first semester, which is good news. But the Practicum is mainly based around the second semester. Now, what's important to note here, and this is really important for everybody to understand, if you look at the dates there, the Practicum runs right through the year in second semester. It doesn't stop in May when all of the other programs are finished. It runs right through until August. So, and a lot of the time in June, July, and August, your team are operating on your own, completing your research and completing your final paper. So that's the important thing about a Practicum to remember that it runs through the summertime and it's a full-time course, unlike some of the other modules that are involved when you hand in your dissertation, let's say in May or June or whenever it might be. So the first thing is that in February, and in this case it'd be February 2021, you'll have your first client meeting with your students and supervisors. Now I will say there is little bits and pieces that happen in between these as well, but we're not going to bog you down with the detail just yet. These are just the salient points. In March then you will deliver what's called an elevator pitch. What's an elevator pitch? Well, the term elevator pitch came from New York originally, when young business people were trying to get their ideas across to the CEOs and the main decision makers within their companies. And often the only time they could ever directly make contact with their CEOs was in the actual elevator. So they only had maybe 2 or 3 minutes to get their idea across to the CEO, and for hopefully the CEO to listen to it and possibly to give them a chance to develop it. So that's where the word elevator pitch came from. So what the elevator pitch does, it's a 10% of the total marks, is that it gives us in the university and yourselves an idea to frame what you intend to do over the following 5 or 6 months. And there's 10% of the marks going for that. We try and get as many of the marks done before you actually are on your own as regards the report itself. So you can see why we do that. In April, then you submit what's called the combined literature review and research methods paper, and that's 20%. So already by April, you've got 30% of your marks in the bag. Okay, and these, by the way, will be marked by a team that you will present to. That's a presentation of the elevator pitch to a team of people in DCU, including myself, where your combined literature review and research methods paper is marked by your actual supervisor, who's the person who's been working with you up until April. You will then submit your practicum report submission, which is the main body basically in August. So that's the main document. And then later on in August, you will present that to an academic group like myself. And then later on again in August, just about a week later after, you'll do that to your actual clients and to your peers, to a jury of your peers, as they say, which is everybody else that's in the class. And there's the various marks that are given. So you can see there's the perfect combination of communication skills, academic papers, teamwork, etc., etc., etc. Any questions so far about that? Okay, so the benefits of the practicum. Teamwork skills, collaboration. You have to collaborate a lot with people that are on the course with you. Some of whom you may know already, most of whom you will not, in fact, know them. So you're already starting off learning how to collaborate, how to communicate, how to be a member of a team, how to lead, how to be a project manager, etc., etc. Like I said, consulting project style, the real life problem that we've spoken about already. It also gives you ways of developing your self-confidence, which a dissertation doesn't really allow you to do because of the fact that you're working on your own. Research skills are common to both. The only difference being with a practicum, you're learning your research skills along with a group of 2 or 3 student colleagues. You're working under constraints, and you are definitely working under constraints with this because you have the problem of having to meet and liaise with your colleagues, with clients, with your supervisors, with the DCU academic team, and a time constraint because you're going to be very busy in the first semester and the early part of the second semester with all of the other modules that you're going to be doing on your master's course. And then you have that 2 or 3 months in the summertime to actually go through and finish off your practicum. So a time constraint would be a big one. There's a lot to cram in here, but it's very, very worthwhile and very, very useful for your future career because in every project management, I'm sure lots of you have experience of business already, time constraint is probably the biggest factor of all. And you'll certainly experience that with the practicum. And then eventually, as I've said already, the perfect balance of academic and practical work. This is a slide that some of you have seen already if you've been, and I know some of you have been involved in some of the other webinars we've done as regards to the other courses because I see some familiar faces here. So there's lots of student support. I suppose the biggest one we'd say about the practicum is that we have a dedicated practicum team and they're there to support you, not just from the point of view of the websites, etc., but to be there for you whenever you need help. And you have a supervisor assigned to your team from the very start, okay? From into the first semester, certainly after 2 or 3 months, you have a supervisor who's there to advise you whenever he or she can and will. Now, the next slide is something that, again, that some of you have seen before, because one of the big questions is what's going to happen in the present situation with COVID. So we just want to give you a flavor of how the university is going to deal with the COVID situation, and as you'll hear from this, it's a hybrid solution.
Going to college in 2020 is going to look a little different. At DCU, we will have a hybrid delivery of online and classroom learning. Luckily, DCU has been providing online learning for over 25 years, so our students are in experienced hands. Let's have a look at what you can expect. Through our online Loop portal, you can access the online lectures, assignments, discussion forums, case studies, and quizzes. You will attend online lectures in real time or watch them later that day.
Okay, good morning everyone. Welcome to DCU and welcome to the report lecture.
Once we are in the classroom, we can ask questions, chat privately and take notes. We are often broken up into breakout rooms to chat and discuss questions on a peer-to-peer level. It's a great way to get to know your new classmates as well. A big part of the DCU student learning experience will be using slides, polls and quizzes. Our teaching will be visual, conversational and interactive. In the safest way possible, DCU will ensure you get the student experience that we are known for. We look forward to seeing you in September.
Thank you. Bye. Okay, so we've come to probably the most important part of it. We've done 3-4 minutes now of actually talking to you. This is your opportunity to ask any questions that you have as regards to the course. And please don't be shy, folks. The reason that we're here is to answer any questions that you may have. If you want to answer the question, don't forget to unmute your button